It's not particularly flashy, but it is cheap. You get your own chalet and you can rent a sea kayak for the day. The Abel Tasman Park is named after the first European to set foot here. His name was Abel Tasman, obviously. The park has some of New Zealand's oldest bush and some exceedingly groovy wildlife hangs out here. But what really stands out are the beaches. Most of them can only be reached by intrepid kayakers, or me. It's like that first person you had a crush on, remote and beautiful. There is here neither hurly nor burly, just raw nature. But there comes a time when a man wants some ensuite facilities and a shower cap. Blenheim, a small town, but home to the Hotel d'Urville, the epitome of Kiwi elegance. Some luxury, that's what I need.
Oh, absolutely. Go on up and come on down and have a glass of wine.
I should have looking forward to having wines. After bursting into everyone else's room, I finally found mine. Blenheim's a disconcerting place. It's got a slightly creepy feel to it, as though you've just landed in 50s Middle America. Strange secrets seem to lurk behind the neat privet hedges.
Morning.
But most people who come here don't take much notice of Blenheim itself, partly because there's not much to notice, but principally because it's more useful as a base to explore the heart of one of New Zealand's prime wine areas. You can spend an agreeably woozy afternoon slurping your way around the wine trails. Reds? You got any reds? Marlborough Chardonnay, which year is this?
This is 1993.
Is that the best year? What's your best year?
Best year is hard to say. All vintages are different. 1993 was a very slow, very cold year. And the wine's actually lovely with food now.
Almut hails from a top German family of wine growers. Like many European viticulturalists, she came with a pack on her back and never left.
The lifestyle is just fantastic. See, just here in Marlborough, we've got the sea, the Marlborough Sounds, we got the mountains, we got the ski fields, we got everything right together and can make use of it.
It's not a bit boring though, do you find, is it?
I just love it. No, you gotta be a country person to like it.
Well, I've sampled a local winery, I've stayed in a remote lodge, I've frolicked on boats by the sea, I've seen beautiful views. This really is a kind of faraway idyll. But every idyll needs a surprise, and here it is. This, I promise you, is a local taxi company. Home, James, and don't spare the horsepower.
New Zealand might be a long way away, but that utopia is a lot more accessible these days, thanks to the recent introduction of cheaper charter flights.
Those charter flights are available through Austravel from November to March for around £600. Alternatively, scheduled flights are available all year round, but the cheapest time to travel is between April and June. Air New Zealand offers return flights from £638, which includes 2 free stopovers in South Pacific destinations like Fiji and the Cook Islands. A night in the wilds at the Awaroa Bay Lodge in a chalet for two costs £60. And for all your creature comforts, the stylish Hotel D'Urville in Blenheim has double rooms for £123 a night.
There can be no city in the world so instantly recognisable as Venice, though sadly the crowds that flock there every summer have become as much of a trademark as the canals. Writer Sophie Campbell, the first to join our new lineup of regulars, has been travelling all her life. In her first essential guide for us, she went to Venice to see how the city is bearing up under the onslaught of mass tourism. Venice is in northeastern Italy, in the middle of a vast lagoon. Its heart is St. Mark's Square, which Sophie left behind to explore the Castello and Dorsoduro districts. She then travelled to Burano on the outskirts of the lagoon. The sightseeing began just minutes out of the airport.
It's the most beautiful view you see of Venice, the one you see for the first time. Few airport transfers are as effortlessly glamorous as this. It's difficult to believe that this ornate city was once a collection of boggy salt marshes before the people of the Venetian Republic built their narrow streets and palaces on wooden poles stuck into the mud. Venetians used to fear that the sheer weight of their city meant it was sinking into the sea. Now they're more worried about it sinking under a sea of tourists and becoming a kind of cultural theme park. St. Mark's Square is what everyone comes to see, but an incredible 5 out of 10 visitors go no further. This is great news for those of us who know what else Venice has to offer, like guide and interpreter Laura Sabadin. And what would you suggest, that people just go for a stroll?
Get lost in Venice.
Get
you
lost
know,
in
just
Venice.
get lost. That's what because it's nice. There are signs everywhere saying where you can go. I mean, it's difficult to get lost. And if you do, which is nice anyway, then you can ask some Venetian, you know, to give you directions. And sometimes, you know, if they're not in a hurry, they can take you by the arm and take you there.
Because it's like a theme park, it can be difficult to move away from the marked trails and all the fun of the fair. But you must, because this is where Venice is at its most exhilarating. Away from the main drag of the Grand Canal, you'll drift into everyday life in the real water world. Here in the residential Castello district, the art may be harder to find, but it's still there, hidden down dozens of narrow alleyways. Venice is a tight-knit huddle of 118 islands with a church on nearly every one. This one at Campo Angelo Raphael in Dorsoduro was just waiting for me to walk in and claim it as my own. A stroll away, craftsmen are carving another batch of the city's trademark, gondolas. Each one costs around £10,000 to make, but with trips on the Grand Canal costing an outrageous £60 a time, a gondola can soon pay for itself. A far cheaper way to cross the Grand Canal is by traghetto, the no-frills ferries, which are a snip at only 40p a time. Standing is a cunning way to save a few lire in the spectacularly overpriced Venetian cafes. Drink your coffee on your feet, al banco, and it'll cost you half as much as sitting down. But good etiquette costs nothing. When walking down narrow Venetian streets, always walk on the right. Use San Marco as your homing point and wander down the alleyways leading off the square. You'll find surprises, but perhaps none as shocking as this. The Fenice Opera House, devastated by fire earlier this year, is the city's most tragic sight. You have to come round the back of the Fenice to understand why it was such a disaster. These canals had been drained for the first time in 20 years, and the pompieri couldn't get their fireboats through to the blaze. When they did so, the water that they used from the Grand Canal caused almost as much damage as the flames themselves. To allow shows to go on and all tickets to be honoured, the seating plan of La Fenice has been duplicated inside a giant marquee near the bus station. One man who wants to make sure the tragedy is never repeated is conservationist Fabio Carrera. Here, above one of the city's oldest churches, he told me about his plan to use the wells and bell towers of the city's past to save it from fire in the future.
We would pump water downward towards the church in order to dampen it down in case there was a fire around the church. We could wet the church so they wouldn't catch on fire.
So you'd almost be using the bell towers like sprinklers?
Exactly.
From any of these towers, you can see across the Venetian lagoon towards the more remote islands such as Burano. It's a 45-minute ride by vaporetto or water bus to Burano from San Marco. Personally, I chose the luxury of a water taxi. If you thought that Venice was Fantasyland, well, this is Toy Town. Everybody paints their houses in the most amazing colours, and for very good reason. Believe it or not, winters in Burano are misty and dismal, and the bright colours not only cheer everybody up, they help the fishermen to find their way home. Weddings on the street, tour groups peering into windows, it's hard to work out who's watching whom. One thing is for sure, this is the place to find the cheapest fish restaurants. So even the outlying islands can lure a crowd. But there is one way of seeing the Bridge of Sighs unclogged and hearing the water lap around St. Mark's Square. Just remember to pack your alarm and get out on the street before breakfast. It's not a secret to the Venetians, of course. It's just that if you can come here early, to the place that Napoleon called the drawing room of Europe, you can enjoy it in relative peace. No tour groups, no minstrels, no packets of pigeon seed. You'll feel as if you've been let into Venice before opening time.
Unless you're an early riser like Sophie, the best way to beat the crowds is to go to Venice out of season, so avoid April to September.
Alitalia flies twice daily from London with midweek returns at £187. Off-season, it can be cheaper. For about £7, you can take the water bus from the airport. It's the cheapest way to transfer to St. Mark's. One good hotel deal in a very pricey city is the romantic Pensione Accademia Hotel in the Dorsoduro district. Bed and breakfast is from £48 per person. At the other end of the scale is the luxurious Gritty Palace. Antique stuffed double rooms are priced from £300 and some rooms overlook the Grand Canal.
If Sophie's trip to Venice has put you in the mood for a city break before your main holiday this year, we've found some of the best deals for the coming bank holiday.
One of the best bargains is through Thompson, who have 3 nights bed and breakfast in Paris departing from Manchester Airport. After May the 24th, it's reduced to £204 per person from £270. Apollo Cities are offering 3 nights bed and breakfast in Istanbul, departing from London for just £139, but that's this weekend, so you better start packing. Another good deal is through Cresta, who will give you 1 extra night free on weekend breaks in a range of cities such as Rome, priced from £248, Amsterdam £187 and Paris at £160. Accommodation includes breakfast. Daybreak travel can offer a taste of one of the Baltic's emerging resorts, Tallinn in Estonia, where you can spend 3 nights for £269 until the end of June. And World's End Travel are offering a 3-night mini cruise to Norway, departing from Newcastle on the 22nd of May and 29th for just £99. The Newcastle to Bergen section is on a ferry before joining the liner. Most deals are based on 2 people sharing.
Refined Georgian architecture and the heritage of some of the century's greatest